All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Kayfabe Crib, KFC itself, is back once again. Today, Pump and D are going to be discussing reigns to be or not to be. Reigns that did not happen, reigns that should not have happened, whether it was with gold or just in a push.
Granted, this is coming from two guys that are not in the business. So, hey, our opinions are worth whatever. So, anyway, before we get into all that, wanted to, as of this recording, WWE just did their event with AAA. It was announced that Rey Mysterio is going to be the general manager of AAA. And I don't know how this works, if they send their ID champion down there or what the deal is. I don't know what the new system is. Well, this is coming from somebody who pretty much just when I stopped watching WWE and started watching AEW. But anyway, there was a great match on the card that is talked about. And it is the original Grande Americano versus El Grande Americano, mask versus mask. You can find it, folks, on WWE's YouTube channel as of this recording. And I plan on watching it, and I'll give my 2 cents at some point, either in a future episode of this or perhaps in a post on our Substack. Pump, have you noticed anything in regards to WWE lately that has perhaps caught your eye?
The blow off from WrestleMania has kind of been a little bit meh. Brock Lesnar obviously has come back after retiring in the ring. A very, very apparent, just audible that he called while he was in the ring and left his boots in there. But supposedly he was under contract through SummerSlam, and I guess they got a little nasty with him, and he had to come back to fulfill some dates, otherwise to face some sort of litigation. That's not really confirmed, but the way that he went out at WrestleMania, that was totally an audible that seemed to shock everyone there at the time. I do want to add something about the El Grande Americano. While I've not watched the whole thing unfold, and it seemed to originate with Chad Gable losing a match against Penta when Penta first came from AEW over to WWE, and that he promised that he was going to learn the art of lucha libre so that he could come back and fight better against Penta again. And that's where that all started from. But then he got hurt, and they brought in Kaiser to fill in his spot, kind of in a well, is he or isn't he the same guy? Kind of what we've seen in the past with masked wrestlers when they obviously replace somebody with another wrestler and then try and play it off like it's the same.
Yeah, which I never really understood that, because I could always tell.
Oh, yeah.
Even as a kid, and whenever they would have a masked wrestler, an example of this was like that whole Undertaker bit.
Mm-hmm.
I did the fake Undertaker.
Or Doink.
Yeah.
Or Kane or Razor Ramon and Diesel. I mean.
Yeah. I'm over here. I'm like, ugh. But yeah, I mean, come on, man. I mean, it's just like first off, we know that it is scripted. You know, the matches are predetermined. I like to be kind of, I like that mystery. It's kind of like going to see a magician.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't want to know how the magic's done, because then why I want to go see him.
Absolutely.
So,
and like, take Mystico for instance. He was in the WWE. What were they calling him back then? He was Sin Cara. They swapped him out for another wrestler who had a tattoo, and you're like, that's not the same guy.
Oh, and in other news, I just found out that the Wyatt Six have apparently joined TNA. Granted, AEW kind of did this too with Brody Lee and Dark Order. Okay, they kind of rode that, still riding it. You know what I mean? That train. Okay, it's going to keep going for however long Tony Khan wants to keep it going. And the Wyatt Six thing, I just found interesting that it was supposed to be like this big deal in WWE that really did not meet up to their expectations.
You want to know what it makes me think of?
Huh? I'm sorry, what?
This is what it makes me think of. It's when you have a hot act and all of a sudden you have to change the cast. Like the Dukes of Hazzard, when all of a sudden Bo and Luke Duke did not return for a season and it was their cousins that came in. That's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, and it's like, but they're going to TNA though. And we know that TNA is in business with them, okay? Yeah. But now it just really feels like whatever like soul and integrity is left, and the TNA brand is just being, this is just painful to watch.
It's getting a whole WWE light.
It would be kind of probably the equivalent of like what maybe some Southerners back in the Civil War referred to as the carpetbaggers coming down to, you know what I mean? They probably have feelings like that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. And you know, the accusations in the past of other promotions bringing in acts from other promotions and trying to push them to the top, and
because what's going to happen, and they did this with WCW, is that case in point, Sting. How Sting went out in that WrestleMania. They wanted to make sure that Sting was not going to win, so that they could show the audience that WWE wins over WCW.
Yep.
That's what it was. And the same thing is going to happen to a TNA talent. They are going to lose. Why? Because they are a TNA talent. They will never make TNA look equal or superior than WWE. That's why they're kind of reluctant, I feel like, to be WWE's like, okay, we'll let you work with NXT, but that's it. You know, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Like you don't want them near the main roster.
Yeah. It is also going to be interesting. I mean, obviously we've not heard the last from Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. I completely imagine Xavier Woods is going to go back to his Consequences Creed character, which was well established before his jump to WWE. As far as Kofi goes, I really don't know what he's going to come as.
Well, I did read an unconfirmed report earlier. Granted, this is unconfirmed, folks, as of this recording. But as of this recording, there are unconfirmed reports that Kofi Kingston and
Xavier
Woods are going to AEW along with the Motor City Machine Guns.
So I also
that's two tag teams.
Yeah, apparently FTR has a lot to do with them coming in. That they're high on them.
But like I said, it's not confirmed.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get confirmation in coming days if that's true or not.
All right, so to get into the meat of this episode.
Yep, let's get to it.
The meat and the bones of this episode.
Yeah, as it were.
We're going to talk about some title reigns. Ones that they completely missed the mark and should have struck while the iron was hot, and some where they did something and we said, "Oh no, that's a bad idea," and it hurt the business tremendously. So I want to start off with and we're going to probably have a little bit of overlap here. I'm going to start off with one that should have happened, and I think there are very few that are going to argue against it. Roddy Piper should have held the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at some point in time. And I have figured out when that time was. You look at the storylines they had. They kept the belt on Hogan for a long time. That was part of establishing the Hogan character, the whole pushing the whole WWF product, as it were, back in the day. I think the best time that Piper could have held it was late 1992. If you remember, late 1992, Flair dropped the title to Bret Hart at a house show untelevised house show of all things. A lot of fans, they picked up on the product, and all of a sudden they're like, wait, what happened? Because we didn't have the internet back then. All of a sudden it was them just saying, hey, you got a new champion. We don't have any evidence of it, but here's what happened. Where they missed the boat was instead of having Brett beat Flair at a house show, you could have either had Brett beat Flair on TV.
I think you had that steroid trial going on at that time too.
Yes, that was right around the time of the steroid trial. I think if you have Brett picking up the clean win on Flair on TV, you can have Brett lose to Piper because he's not a very experienced champion. Then Yokozuna, before Yokozuna starts his reign, he can finish off Piper. That can be what finishes Piper in WWE. He sits on him, ends his career. That's the way that you have Piper as the transitional champion.
Damn, that's brutal.
You're
gonna have Piper get squashed by Yokozuna?
Yes, but that sets it up for Brett to come back as an established champion later. You don't want him to be the one that gets squashed by Yokozuna. You have an old veteran that basically the veteran is the one that gets put down by the young up and coming one. Piper was done with WWE after that 92 run anyhow. So until he came back for some Piper's Pit episodes, that's really probably the best time you could have had it with him without interrupting the storylines with Hogan and Savage and everyone else in the years prior.
Are we trading off here?
I say we do.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get mine out of the way. Jake the Snake Roberts should have been WWE champion.
Okay.
He should have been WWE champion. I think he would have been more effective as a heel. And I think the best way to do that is, you remember that whole bit with the Warrior and the Snake thing?
Yep.
That's how you have Jake the Snake take the title from Warrior. Since when Warrior was doing all that shenanigans and they had Slaughter take it, it should have been Jake the Snake as a champion.
I can see that. That'd be a good period for it to be too.
It was really theatrical. It's very WWE.
Oh yeah. It was shocking to our age at the time.
Yeah, and also like if you wouldn't have had somebody that was really into that character like Jake was, I don't really think it would have came off as effectively. Because he made you kind of think as a kid like, wow, there's something right with that dude, So, your next pick, sir?
Well, I'm not gonna count this one, but I'm gonna throw it in there since you have Jake, and I think you made a better case for Jake than I would have. I couldn't find a way to insert Jake Roberts at the height of his popularity for a world title run, but you just did. What I was thinking was almost as a consolation, have him take Honky Tonk for the IC title. Honky Tonk did not need to have a 400-day long reign.
I agree.
Yeah. It generated a lot of heat, but I think Honky Tonk was hated enough that you could have split that reign up.
I think they gave it to the wrong guy when they finally had him lose it. I mean,
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking Honky Tonk at some point in time during that reign loses to Jake Roberts. He can use his dastardly ways and get it back, and then Warrior could challenge for him the same night, come in and blow him away like he did when he did finally beat him, and it would still be as over as it was.
Here's a question: would you have put Beefcake if he had not been injured in that spot?
I don't know. The more I go back and look at Beefcake, the more I'm thinking he peaked where he was.
Yeah.
That he wasn't a person to carry the gold and establish other people. He was an attraction based upon his gimmick.
For the record, when I met him in person, he was pretty cool to me, so I don't have any complaints about him.
Yeah, no.
I didn't have that.
As far as the character goes,
I did not have a negative experience.
Yeah, I think some characters are best left just as characters and don't need to have a title. Mm-hmm. Red Rooster, for instance. Red Rooster does not need to have gold to be the Red Rooster.
Dude, I always loved the Brooklyn Brawler. I don't give a shit what anybody says.
Yeah.
I mean, I love seeing the Brooklyn Brawler because he looked. I don't know. There was something authentic about him, even though he looked very cartoony, you
Well,
know,
I
something
think his
authentic about him.
filthy shirt full of holes.
Yeah,
I mean, you resonate with that. You see that, and you're like, "Ooh, I don't want to touch that guy. I don't want him to touch me."
yeah.
But since you did the Jake Roberts bit, I'm gonna go with another obvious one. Back in 1990, on the house show circuit, the Hart Foundation was feuding with the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty did win those titles on the house show circuit, and about 3 more shows in, it was officially put back onto the Hart Foundation. It was never recognized by WWE, so
Why is that?
They never. It just wasn't. I guess if it wasn't on TV, it didn't exist.
Did they piss somebody off?
Well, it might be something just as simple as go back and look at Hogan losing in Japan, Bob Backlund losing in Japan, reigns that are not recognized.
Yeah.
So I think it was more of one of those. I think the Rockers should have had at least a short run. I mean, for crying out loud, the Can-Am Connection had a run. I mean, why couldn't they have?
Did they?
I think they did. I think it was like blink and you'll miss it, but I think it happened.
Because I don't recall that happening. I know Strike Force did.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking. I might be thinking of Strike Force.
No, because Can-Am Connection was Martel and Zinc.
Yes.
Something happened with Z-Man, and he was fired. So WWE was scrambling and saying, look, quite a number of people like the Can-Am Connection. Well, let's do a replacement. Let's keep the same colors. And, hey, Tito, you're done with the Intercontinental title?
We're not doing anything with you.
You're going to be riding with Rick. That's our team now.
This is before they realized they could be really racist and just stick, a Matador outfit on.
No. But that's what I understood, like how that happened. And then all of a sudden, somebody, I think it was Vince. All right, first, before I go off on this rabbit hole, did I overstep you? Is it your turn or is it mine?
No. I was doing the whole Rockers bit that they should have held the goal.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Even if it wasn't a short while.
Go ahead.
No. But, I mean, that was pretty much my thing. The Rockers should have had it.
Okay. And this goes into my next pick. We're talking about him. Rick Martel should have been Intercontinental Champion.
He wasn't, was he?
No, he never was.
The model was not.
AWA, he was the AWA World Champion, and you're not going to make him the Intercontinental Champion. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
The Intercontinental Champion, but you're not going to make Rick Martel.
Yeah, and I mean, when he was doing his model shtick, he had fans hating on him.
Well, he was one of the few that, like, when he had to drop the title to, he had to drop the title to Stan Hansen. Crazy Stan Hansen. Did you hear about what happened to that belt later? The AWA belt.
Go ahead and provide it for the audience. It's not gelling for me.
Yeah, well, when Stan Hansen took Rick Martel's AWA title, okay. Well, when Vern Gagne wanted a percentage of Stan Hansen's Japanese earnings, and Stan Hansen basically told him to go F himself. And so Vern Gagne was like, if you leave and go to Japan, you better bring me back the belt. And he says, all right, fine. So he took the belt and he ran it over with his pickup truck and mailed it to Vern Gagne.
Early version of the hardcore title.
That is why you saw you remember the belt that Vern Gagne held, that version, why it was replaced with the one Kurt Hennig had? The one that Jerry Lawler had.
That's because of that.
That was because of Stan Hansen running over that belt.
Ooh.
Yes.
So I guess that predates Flair jumping ship to the WWF with the big gold and them having to make up another title.
I understand that there was that deviates a little bit from my little pitch there, but yeah, Rick Martel definitely. I mean, this guy's a former world champion. He needed to be an intercontinental champion, and I think that whole arrogant shtick, that's when they should have really pushed that and given them fun with it.
Yeah. And I'm going to argue, just because you're a world champion for a promotion doesn't mean that you should be a champion somewhere else.
Exactly.
We've seen a lot of people that didn't deserve to be champ get slapped with gold, but in this case, Rick Martel, he was a great worker.
Yeah,
he definitely could. All right, I'm gonna load up. I've got another one. This one's gonna take a little bit of explaining, so you're gonna have to bear with me.
Okay.
1988. Hulk Hogan on Saturday night's main event.
Oh boy.
Yeah, loses to Andre the Giant, as we all remember when they had the Hebner referee switch.
Yep.
So I'm going to rewrite this. How that all culminated after that, for everyone that needs to be brought up to speed on history, Andre dropped the title immediately and sold it to DiBiase. Jack Tunney declared that invalid and vacant. And then they had a tournament, which became WrestleMania 4, to crown the champion. I'm going to argue, have Andre leave the show that night with that title, and on the next broadcast of whatever it is, he takes the fall. He lays down for DiBiase. All because DiBiase paid him off to do that. That gives DiBiase a legit win to win the title. Then you can have Tunney say, no, we're going to strip that. But it at least establishes DiBiase having a legit title reign with WWE. And here's where I'm going to rewrite it just a little bit. So he accepts the bribe from DiBiase to be his first opponent. Lays down, Tunney declares WrestleMania 4 tournament. DiBiase must face 2 in a triple threat. Triple threats were not a thing back then. I think this would have been an opportune time for the first triple threat. Leave the finalists for it as Savage and Roberts, because in that WrestleMania tournament, they had two matches that ended without a victor. You ended up getting one-man gang getting a bye and DiBiase getting a bye to go on to basically the semifinals. You had Jake the Snake Roberts and Rick Rude. That went to a time limit draw. And then you had Andre and Hogan go to a double disqualification that moved one-man gang forward without having to fight anyone. I think if you at least do the tournament to where you can have Rick Rude or Roberts go to the finals with Savage and DiBiase, that's the way to go. I would have done Jake the Snake back then, just because he was the hotter option, and with him being kind of a tweener, who's he really going to help in the match? Is he going to try and help Savage? Is he going to help DiBiase? You didn't know which way he was going to go.
That would probably also determine who's in Savage's corner.
So I think DiBiase was another missed chance, even if it was just for storyline purpose, just to move something forward to the WrestleMania 4 tournament. It gives Andre his moment to be champion. Let it be longer than 39 seconds or whatever the crap it was that night, at least to leave the night as the champion and show up at a following show with it.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all really good suggestions. I think one talent that I think felt like he didn't get a better deal, and that was Barry Windham. Barry Windham, he was technically international whatever that weird Jim Herd crap that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I just felt like when he didn't, for some reason, I guess Vince probably didn't see him as valuable when he came over to WWE as the Widowmaker. And then when he came back to WCW, they hooked him up with Bobby Duncombe and Henning, and they were like the West Texas Rednecks or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just, you knew the end was near, you know, and it was just really just kind of a shame because I think that the Barry Windham lineup of the Fool Horsemen was the best lineup.
Really?
That they ever had.
That's were
the most
strong words right there.
Yes, I am saying that, and I'll challenge anybody. Bring it on.
Now, wasn't the Barry Windham era, wasn't that also when Luger was part of them?
No, that was another thing. And I'll be sending back these links to you in the future, but you can probably go to the WWE Vault or WCW YouTube channels, and you can watch that whole angle because Luger went to join the Horsemen first. And then when they were done with him, you know, he goes around, looks for a friend. He finds Wyndham. They become tag team champions by beating Tully and Arn. Okay. So they have a reign as tag champs. But when they give him the rematch, Barry turns on Lex.
Okay.
And joins the Horsemen.
Gotcha. And
that's when you had Flair as world champ, Tully and Arn as tag champs, and Barry Windham was a very convincing U.S. champ because that's when he had the claw. He was making people bleeding every week. I mean, he was dangerous, you know, and that was when he was really like hitting his stride. And I thought for sure, like, oh, they're going to give him the title. I thought for sure, like, he'd probably challenge Flair for the title, but of course they didn't want to write it that way because you can't break up the Horsemen. So
you had a lot of Flair reigns that maybe could have been somebody else's reign there for a while. And that's where I want to just to bounce into what my next one is. If you go back and you look at the WWF in the early to mid 90s, they really should have done they really had the opportunity then to do what they would be doing just a few years later with the Attitude Era, where you had a lot of different short reign people, but at least they got the limelight. Like, for instance, Ravishing Rick Rude. Ravishing Rick Rude, all the talent in the world. You could talk about Kurt Hennig. Ravishing Rick Rude, outside of the Intercontinental title, didn't get a world title. And I think maybe the best opportunity for him to have had that was when he went back to WCW. And in 1992, he was feuding with Ron Simmons and then later Dusty Rhodes.
But wasn't he technically world champion? That stupid international thing. I think that's where they did that because they said that's when he had a gun in the trunk of his car, and he was like fighting with Bischoff because Bischoff was his money. And I guess
I don't know. That's that title almost isn't a title. It's almost kind of like a paper title.
I know. That's again, we've talked about these types of things. It's just. It was a Jim Herd, like, let's kind of make everybody happy kind of a thing. And I remember watching WCW during that time and just thinking, man, this is BS. Where's like the one world champion? You know, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, if it's not going to be Flair, it should be like Sting. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be like, well, we got two guys, technically, kind of like what WWE is got, you know?
Yeah. And you're making the product more confusing for the audience.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where I think you're Ravishing Rick Rude. I think that's the best opportunity for Rick Rude to actually have the world title is. I think it's WCW in that era. Steamboat, I can't be more happy that Steamboat held a world title. It couldn't have happened with WWF, not with the way that they were booked back then. The fact that it happened with WCW, I'm so happy about. I think Rick Rude was another person that similar situation to Steamboat. That's where his best opportunity was.
Yeah, it was kind of strange to see Steamboat go from NWA World Champion, those classic matches with Flair, and then you got Steamboat Savage, and that was
Or even worse, him coming back wearing scales and a big hood like he's an iguana and blowing fire.
Yeah, that was a Vince idea.
That was embarrassing.
But I mean, yeah, like it would have been nice to see him get like a world title reign. But
it would have been. But at the same time, I get it. They were trying to keep year-long reigns on everyone at the time, and you had too many cooks in the kitchen. That's kind of what made the IC title so great back then, because if you're going to have all of your world champions hold it for a year at a time, at least the IC title was something where you could have that movement and that change.
With that aside, I think with AEW, I think the TNT title and the international title should be the ones they should focus on, and just scrap Continental and National. Mm-hmm. Because if they're bound and determined to have two workhorse titles, those are clearly the two ones that you should have. Yep. Because if you look at those that have it, Takeshita with the international championship, mm-hmm. and then you have the TNT champion. As of this recording, it is Kevin Knight. Those are two good hands to have. And I'm looking at the AEW roster now. I'm looking at the roster as we speak, and it looks pretty stacked.
Yeah.
To where you could support something like that, ROH, on the other hand, does not reflect that. I'm looking at its roster right now, and I'm sorry, with the amount of titles that they have, they do not. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11 female wrestlers, and they have 3 singles titles. How does that work?
Wow. Just for the women.
Yep. That's my point. So, I mean, yeah, if they got this big stacked roster, we're getting off into the weeds, but they need to split some of this up, because we quality over quantity, and especially in this day and age in this economy, is what people are going to want. And, we need to get back to on track. So,
speaking of back on track, what's your suggested reign